February 27, man. Let everybody know what we're coming up on. 31 years since the Sumgait program's 1988, February 27, 1988.
Right,
in
right.
Sumgait, Azerbaijan.
And I'm gonna pull up something unrelated. Yeah, but Sumgait is a suburb of Baku, right?
In
so
Azerbaijan.
in Azerbaijan, current day Azerbaijan. It was a very industrial part of Azerbaijan. You know, actually everywhere where there was like a lot of industrial activity, Armenians were heavily present. That was a town that was very very large Armenian presence, and it was the beginning of the pogroms. And pogroms are what? These are large scale massacres. As a result, for what we're calling the Artsakh movement in Artsakh, okay, and on February 27th, a mob formed, a very well orchestrated, very well informed mob, formed next to the statue of Lenin, which is every major city in Soviet Union had a Lenin square, as did Yerevan, as did Gyumri, as did Kirovakan, and all those other places, Vanadzor today, and started moving towards the Armenian populated, neighborhood of the city, executing a well thought out, large scale set of pogroms, massacres against the communities, essentially saying Armenians get out.
Yeah.
And this is 1988. This is 3+ years before Soviet Union fell apart. It was unheard of for something of such scale to happen. An ethnic, tension in a country that nobody, even the United States, can touch. You know what I mean? So that was a big deal. The other thing that I want to mention, and we'll talk about it later on as well, because the anniversary is yet to come in a few days only, right? We as global Armenians, just like we know about Kesab and what's going on there, we need to connect the dots and make sure that we understand that this is one and the same. When it was happening to the Armenians in Sumgait, and by the way, thereafter, it happened in Baku, and it happened in every major city of Azerbaijan until the Soviet Union collapsed, and then we have total, large-scale war with between Artsakh and Armenia and Azerbaijan. So these were over Nagorno-Karabakh, which is Artsakh, right? This was ethnic cleansing, but for Armenians, it was as if genocide was suspended during the 70 years that essentially, like a timeout was called out by the Soviet rule. To a lot of Western people, they go, well, but this is Azerbaijan. It's a completely different country.
It's a Turkish state.
It's a Turkish state within the Soviet Union. That's exactly what it was. As a matter of fact, it was created that way. You can argue me however much you'd like. I will hit you with fact after fact after fact. Again, doing the research on Armenian stuff in the ancient world, never has there been a point of Azerbaijan in the ancient scriptures of the Greeks. The Phoenicians never mentioned Azerbaijan. Up until the 19th century, that word did not even exist. As a matter of fact, it was always a province of Iran. Okay? So, bottom line, long story short, is it was a horrible ethnic cleansing campaign that resulted with every last one of the Armenian people in Azerbaijan, which numbered at 500,000. It was not a little bit. And to give the rest of the diaspora an understanding what 500,000 is, 500,000 is more than Armenians in Syria, Lebanon, Greece, Cyprus, and maybe even Iran combined today. Okay, so present day. So like you take all of those diasporas, combine that, and that's going to be the amount of Armenians that lived in Azerbaijan, Soviet Azerbaijan. Today, 0, maybe like 1 or 2 people somehow or married into a family, forgotten their identity. Anyways, it was horrible. It was. We need to understand what it was, and we need to understand how clear and present that danger is. Piggyback off of that concept into, and then we'll move on to the next point. Is there is an enclave called Nakhidjevan, right? So whenever there's ethnic tensions, right, you as an outsider go, well, give me the reasons, and the reasons were present. It was a suspended conflict for 70 years. The empire started crumbling. Conflict arose back up. Nakhidjevan is something we never talk about, and just like there was an enclave called Artsakh, which we rightfully so defended and took back, there was another enclave called Nakhidjevan, right? And
it's on the map.
It's on the map. Look it up. Nakhidjevan went through the 90s, after the Soviet Union, through an insanely well orchestrated, erasure of a culture. And that's actually something I was reading a few days ago as well. I need to start reading some positive stuff, but it was essentially a well documented in Russian. Unfortunately, otherwise I would post it. Actually, no, in English. I posted it. It's on my Facebook page. I will repost it here. It was 1 or 2 episodes of what happened. Essentially, an Armenian church used to be there. Now there's a mosque. And the king of all problems was that erasure of 22,000 Khachkars, the largest Armenian, assemblance of Khachkars in the world.
And Khachkar is a cross stone,
right,
so
right.
It's a cross carved into stone.
Right. So if you need any more evidence why Armenians have an issue, I mean, besides the bodily harm, besides the actual ethnic cleansing, there's your evidence that even in a place where there's no longer Armenians, they continually keep going. Why? Because once you erase someone's presence from the land, then you can start talking about, well, they never actually were here. Right. They're the imposters. I'm not the imposter. They're the aggressor. I'm not the aggressor. Right.
It's important to note that Soviet official death count was 32 dead, right? But the actual was more likely was
way over 200.
Of Armenians killed in those programs.
And there were gruesome accounts. Do yourself a favor if you're an Armenian, if you're a person that's interested in human rights and pogroms and massacres and understanding of ethnic clashes. Yeah, just Google Sumgait. 19
pogroms. Pogroms. Sumgait pogroms. You will find.
Yeah. The next one will be the Baku pogroms. And here in the Bay Area, we have a lot of Armenians from Baku. Baku is Armenians.
There are many. Many at your church, St. John, St. John Church in San Francisco.
Anyway, so the anniversary is coming up, and we should definitely, at the very least, educate ourselves about it.
Absolutely. The thing that I find very frustrating and disturbing about it is, not frustrating, that's the wrong word, disturbing, is how this one seems to be the least talked about and recognized.
Right.
Even less, obviously, than the Armenian genocide. Mm-hmm. And you have something that's as recent as 31 years ago. That was in our lifetimes.
Right.
Okay. Many of our lifetimes this happened, and no one talks about it. No one knows about it. So it's important, you guys, really to read up on it, including myself. I need to know more about it myself. And it's important. I do want to acknowledge the documentary that Dean Cain and Montel Williams made. Right. Architects of Denial. Mm-hmm. They do cover this massacre in that documentary. Right. It's much more. They brought it all the way up to current day. Even up to Artsakh. So.
Yeah. Yep. And again, this kid, we can dive into a couple other news articles. Like, wasn't there like a Forbes? No, this was. Bloomberg mentioned about
sticking on Azerbaijan.
Sticking on Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is one of the largest contributors to K Street. Lobby groups. You know what K Street is.
No, let's tell you what K Street is.
K Street is the notorious street upon which, in Washington, D.C., all of the major, if not most of the major lobby groups are kind of grouped. In America, we have, Wall Street finances are in this area, that area. Is like, I remember in New York, 47th Street was like a jewelry area. There was like a lot of jewelry shops. K Street in D.C. is where all the lobby groups are. So, anyways, this Bloomberg report was not a sanction by any Armenian by any means, right? It was just an article that said that it seems to be that Azerbaijan is the top billing.
Yeah, it's on Bloomberg's list of authoritarian regimes.
That is
paying millions to K Street lobbyists. Right. So I wonder what they're paying lobbyists for in D.C. to do. I wonder.
We know. I mean, we all know.
Anything anti-Armenian. Anything anti-Artsakh and Nagorno-Karabakh.
And speaking of which, second largest actually contributing, it's actually for us not to get relaxed. It's in Sacramento. I've read the report years ago. A similar report came out because they know that there's a lot of Armenians here, but they still keep trying to like chip away at it.
Yeah, because you have the largest population of Armenians here in California, so they're coming to the source.
To the source,
Shout out to ANCA. For their work to counter that. Shout out to the Armenian Assembly for their work to counter that. The two Armenian lobby groups and advocacy organizations focused on DC and local governments as well. Shout out to them, and we need to do as much as we can to help their efforts as well.
Right. Maybe Azerbaijan can pay ANCA and does Armenian Assembly, because we definitely need the money. We won't do the bidding, but
I doubt that's gonna happen.
Can you imagine how cool that would be? Like,
it's not gonna happen. Oh man. Sticking with the theme of articles and these authoritarian regimes ending up on lists, The Economist has an article about Turkey leading the world. The world.
Right. Yeah, we know.
There's a lot of countries in the world. Okay.
Right.
Isn't that 230 something countries in the world at least?
Right.
Turkey leads the world in jailed journalists.
I believe that.
Jailed journalists.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of an obscene number, like thousands in jail as we speak.
In fact, let's start this and do a little more digging on that, and we'll cover it later. Let's do it. We'll go into that.
I believe, like, so you have, like, you know, your typical countries, like, I know, you know, my birthplace, Russia, is pretty bad on journalism. Yeah. We know China, authoritarian China, is pretty bad on journalists. But, you know, this is a country that's tried at least back in the day. One thing I realized, it's no longer trying to get into the European Union. Yeah. And is an active NATO member.
Second largest NATO ally.
Yeah, right.
After the U.S.
Right. And, you know, jails journalists like no other.
Is that capitalism? Is that democracy? Is that...
Yeah,
capitalism doesn't apply. Right. Is it democracy? Is it free... Obviously, it's not free press.
What?
There's no free press in Turkey.
No.
So, like, well, again, it's in their law.
Dude, it all started with that whole Article 301, right? Once you start having an authoritarian, an authoritarian law on your books, well, therein is your infringement on media.
Exactly. Yeah. So, sticking with Turkey, our current administration.
Right. There's a little...
Trump.
A little headbutt there.
Trump is now again threatening Turkey with economic devastation.
That's
and then U.S. Vice President Pence
doubling down on that.
Also doubling down. We will not stand idly by as Turkey purchases S-400. What is the S-400? And could you tell us what's going on over here with this?
So, again, the what is... Turkey is cozying up to another authoritarian regime, which is Russia. Not good for Armenia. These S-400, these are very, these are long-range ground-to-air or ground. Anyways, these are mobile. Missile units, essentially, right? Long-range or like mid-range. They're not ICBM, but I think their range is like 400 or 500 miles, which is quite a distance. Yeah. The U.S. is probably angry because Turkey is going...
Yes. Well, here. So it's related.
Right.
Because obviously Turkey's investing in this equipment. But Trump is saying this in response to... He's saying they will devastate... President Donald Trump on Sunday vowed to devastate Turkey economically should the Turkish military attack U.S. allied Kurdish fighters. That's what he's referring to.
I'm excited.
And this is in Syria, correct?
Right.
Yeah, it was fighting ISIS.
So, Turkey is going to Russia to shop for weapons against the Kurds, which the U.S. is backing, but also very, very much angry that Russia is the country that's supplying the weapons and not the usual, which is the United States is the main weapon supplier to Turkey. So there's so many things that are kind of blowing my mind right now. Geopolitics. Like, number one, us as Armenians, don't worry, Armenians. Trump is not getting on Armenia's side.
He's not.
He's mostly offended. Like I said before the live started, I was like, it's like two drug dealers. Arguing over who they're going to sell the drugs to, which is, Russia and the U.S. Right. The only weird thing here, there's many weird things, by the way. We should just stop selling weapons, period. But the biggest weird thing, right? It's like that. The biggest weird thing is like you're a NATO ally. And the one thing that to walk away from here is how unreliable Turkey is becoming.
Exactly.
You're a largest NATO ally within that region, within the organization, and you're going to your quote unquote NATO's enemy for purchasing of weapons. I don't know. If this is not grounds for like asking Turkey to leave NATO, I don't know what is. Yeah. I don't know what is.
I think their geopolitical and their geographical location I personally think has a lot to do with their NATO ally status, right?
Right.
Because of where they're located.
Right. Well, and also the historic context as well.
Right.
Turkey cozied up to the United States during the Eisenhower years, like that's like 60s.
Wasn't it after
60,
the
right. No, after World War II, more so, right? And it was the closest allyship we had. We as in America now, we're going to put the other hats on, was during the Korean War. The second largest allied forces helping the United States forces was out of nowhere Turkish forces.
There you go.
Yeah, so
there you go.
That was the beginning of the love affair of NATO or America. And to be honest with you, this is like a very weird twist of events because you're buying stuff from Russia, bro. I don't know what you're doing. Right. I don't know what the implications are.
Right, and then of course, being allied with the Kurds, the U.S. being allied with the Kurds, there's a lot of this tension because the Turkish government can't stand the Kurds.
Right.
And they're anti.
Well, they're worried about the Kurds. They cannot just not stand the Kurds. They're scared of the Kurds. Let's call it that.
Well, there you go. But the one thing I do want to touch on that you started to touch on, and it's important for everyone to know, Armenian or not, that's watching. While it's refreshing to have the administration in Washington have more aggressive stance towards Turkey and not just be cozied up all the time,
right.
At least it appears that they're not cozied up.
Right.
It has nothing to do with anything pro-Armenian or to help the Armenian cause.
And it's definitely not because of some kind of American stance. Look, the fact that David read a minute ago, that would have been a good enough of a reason to be angry at Turkey. Hey, bro, what are you doing? You got like the world's leader in jail journalists. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but it's the drug dealer mentality.
Well,
it's like, how are you going to my enemy for supply, bro? That's what's
let's repeat what you said because I don't think this was on live.
Right.
None of the stance that's against Turkey from the U.S., none of the positioning or posturing against Turkey has anything to do with what you just said.
Right.
Their jailed journalists, their human rights violations, their authoritarian regime. It has nothing to do with that.
Major violations of international treaties.
Yes.
Turkey right now has its forces in Syria.
Although we're pulling out of every national major world treaty here in the U.S. anyway. That's a whole other conversation.
There is that problem that we're also not a good leader nowadays. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we're not showing the way. So anyways, one positive out of this is like maybe Pentagon can figure out that, all the Armenians have been saying like, hey, Turkey's not reliable.
Yeah.
And maybe now they can understand that, Turkey isn't reliable.
Here's one thing, and I know they're already on it, and we can move on after this. ANCA, Armenian Assembly, this actually gives more fuel to their arguments. Hey, why are we so cozied up with Turkey when they're doing this?
Right.
So
but this also cheapens our fight, to be honest with you, because I know for a fact, and let's move on, right? That tomorrow Turkey can about face and go like, oh, can I get 7 missile launchers? Oh, great! United States. And suddenly Armenians no longer matter. Right. Genocide doesn't matter. Right. That's why I think
Trump and Pence are praising Turkey.
Right. Same thing happened between Russia and Turkey twice already. Back and forth. Turkey, don't forget, shot down a Russian jet fighter 3 years ago. Everyone thought it was going to be like game over for Turkey.
Nope.
Erdogan went to Moscow, did the whole I'm sorry. Now there's 3 million Russians vacationing every day in Turkey, and as a result, they're buying missile launchers from Russia. So, sorry.
Sounds pretty cozy to me.
Right. Let's keep going.
Let's get into some more Armenian-centric news.
Right. There is Armenia out there.
There is Armenia, and it's a growing new democracy, new government there. And with that, there's some growing pains, potentially, right? But how do nations get their funding, right? Or at least capitalistic democracies.
Most nations.
How do they get their funding?
It's through taxation.
Usually through taxation, right?
So everyone understands what we're about to queue up, right?
I pay a lot of taxes.
So do I.
There's a lot of our friends watching probably pay more, maybe, or less, whatever. But and actually, it's tax season now. But Pashinyan, Prime Minister Pashinyan, Prime Minister of Armenia, has put forth and introduced a new 23% flat income tax.
Yes.
And it's receiving...
But a little bit, not a little, but like enough to be in the forefront of the conversation of a lot of media outlets. So, this is what's happening. He is the reformer. He is a guy that came in and said, we as Armenia need to operate differently. And what Armenia has been operating like for the longest time, which is essentially since 1992, literally, is there's a lot of bribes, and there's a lot of back channel money being funneled every which way, and there's no stability in the coffers of the government because there really isn't a coherent tax policy. And this guy is saying we're gonna tax everybody, but we're gonna tax everybody at this particular flat rate, and all hell is starting to break loose from the average Armenians going out and saying like, no, I will not pay taxes to the government. Where do you think the tanks are coming from? Where do you think the schools are coming from? Where do you think the hospitals are coming from? So we as a nation need to start as a country, because me and David have, and actually most of us here in the diaspora, we don't have anything to do with that, right? But it can't. It's actually a litmus test for how Armenia wants to be as a country, not as a global nation, because we live in different countries, right? So that's that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's saying that this would be the same tax level for all salaries at 23%. So that's, I mean, there's other stipulations in his proposals, but that's the root.
Look, I know what the guy is trying to do. I mean, he's trying to wipe. Yeah, he's trying to wipe the slate clean and establish ground rules for how to then go after you if you're evading taxation. How to collect money so that he can fix some things in the budget. You know what I mean? How to govern a country, because taxation is at the corner, is at the foundation of countries. You know what I mean?
Ever since the beginning
of time.
Of countries.
You know what I mean? Yeah, since the beginning of countries.
Beginning of governments.
Right. Because when you don't have that, what is that? It's anarchy. You know, and in America we do have an iffy stance with taxation, and it starts raising a lot
of tax cuts.
Right. A lot of tax cuts. Right.
Which I mean, no one's complaining about, right? But then obviously it's putting a lot of strain on the deficit
and a lot of things. Yeah. Anyways, I hope that Pashinyan can push this through, and I think he will. Again, the vote kind of had, like, it was, just to give you an idea, everyone in his party voted for it in the assembly. Everybody that was not in the party, that's Gagi Tsarukyan's, I guess
but he has a 70% majority, right?
Yeah, he has 70%. So it goes to say that that's like the beginning of the division lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every government is going to have its problems, but I think this is something that we need to kind of move past. Yeah. I mean, you live in a country, you pay taxes. Sorry, man. Yeah. And that means that also all the Armenian diaspora and Armenians that moved there. It's like, hey, man. Sometimes I go there and I see Armenian diasporans there. Like, it's kind of like are you really there or are you not there? Like, are you there until you go back? It doesn't matter. If you earn a living in Armenia, you pay tax. Period. Done. You know what I mean? You do that here.
Right.
If tomorrow a Frenchman comes here, starts working in the United States, he's gonna, if you have the visa, he's gonna get taxed. I don't understand why it's even a question. But yet we got like, you know, some big legends in the art industry, like Tatul, the big the king, the king of rabbis, going like, I am not gonna cut my throat, meaning I'm not gonna.
He's a singer.
He's a singer. Yeah. Rabbis is a musical genre, right? I'm not gonna cut my throat performing, so you could tax me. All right, dude. Well, then you can go to jail.
Yeah,
that's fine. Fine with me.
Yeah, I don't get the thought process.
The thought process is that
avoid tax.
Or
not pay it at all.
Yeah. Anyways.
Okay. So, Pashinyan, Prime Minister, he's been pretty busy lately.
Right.
He's had a lot of meetings lately.
Right.
They're all very interesting. Some with some questionable people, others with some very reputable people.
Right.
He recently met in Berlin.
Yes, a state visit.
A state visit in Berlin with the Prime Minister, Angela Merkel.
Yep.
They discussed European Union relations, as well as the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh, or Artsakh. And Merkel, it seems like they're developing a nice relationship, although I think she's almost done.
Yeah,
right?
it's a little sad because it is on her way out.
Yeah.
But it's cool. We will...
it's very cool. She's very high profile. She's so high profile. I feel
right. Extremely, yeah. She's essentially like, after everyone turned authoritarian and right-wing, she's like the last like bastion of the old Europe until finally Macron came to be, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of hope there, but with the Brexit, she was like the last, the last stronghold, trying to like,
And at least they're the 5th largest economy in the world, I believe.
Right.
Germany, and
largest in the European Union.
Exactly, and they'll still be in the Union, even when Britain decides to Brexit.
Well, Britain decided to Brexit in 2016.
Well, once it happens.
And it's going to happen on my birthday,
it has
March
to formally
29th.
happen. We'll see.
Thank you, England.
We'll see.
I want to see how you face plant yourself into the ground. It was an unnecessary exit. Ooh, stupid.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing.
Funny thing is, just like a lot of things, when you give like the proletariat to uneducatedly vote on something, there's a lot of memes out there and video clips of actually a lot of people in the UK not knowing what the European Union was and how damning it's going to be now to their everyday lives. And it reminds me of the things that are happening here as well. So educate yourself. You know what I mean? You know, it's really creepy. Like how uneducated they were. Like there was this guy voted against his own self-interest. He imports tulips from Holland. Tulips. I was just YouTubing this stuff. And tulips need to come in without any customs through very, very fast, right? Without any holdups. And the guy goes, well, you voted for the Brexit or against it? He goes, I voted to leave the European Union. And the commentator's like, well, didn't you just vote against yourself? And the guy's like, yeah, but I didn't read up on it. Anyways, March 29th, we're going to celebrate.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So the other meetings he had, this is very interesting. It was actually really cool to see some friends and colleagues, Armenian friends and colleagues, happened to be in Davos, Switzerland, during the World Economic Forum. There were a lot of meetings going on around that. Some blockchain things going on, some fintech things going on, other obviously very World Economic Forum related meetings. But Pashinyan was there.
Yep.
He happened to meet with Mr. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple. And he met with other business leaders there at the World Economic Forum. So it's very good. I hope that some really cool new developments come from that.
Right.
And hopefully with tech being such a large and growing sector in Armenia and the Armenian economy, hopefully there's some great things and growth comes from those meetings, hopefully. So
we're coming up on an hour.
We are.
Let's pick a few, one or two things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting late.
Yeah.
Boy, we should touch on Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr, yes.
Shout out to Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr. Who is he, by the way?
Thank you so much, man. Steve Kerr.
If you don't know.
Some people may not. He is the head coach of the back-to-back NBA champion Golden State Warriors.
He himself, a back-to-back champion on the then Chicago Bulls.
He's actually a 5-time NBA champion. 3 with the Bulls.
2 with the Spurs.
Exactly, 2 with the Spurs.
Spurs.
Yes, exactly.
And then, now
he's
with
won
the Warriors.
3 now with the Golden State Warriors. He's
soon to be 4.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. We'll see. They should. But, no, it's absolutely amazing. And just really big shout out and congratulations to KZV Armenian School in San Francisco and Grace Sandonian, dear friend Grace Sandonian and principal of KZV Armenian School for putting together what I've heard from friends and family that attended, just a beautiful banquet, their annual banquet.
Yeah, with him being the keynote speaker, right?
Steve Kerr being the keynote speaker. They honored Steve Kerr's grandparents, Stanley and Elsa Kerr. And it's amazing. Steve Kerr's mother, wife, and 2 of his 3 kids attended this event, which was honoring his grandparents for their service with the Near East Relief, Near East Relief, which was they were the early founders of Near East Relief, Society, Near East Relief Foundation. And they helped thousands of Armenian orphans survive following the Armenian genocide. And so it's absolutely wonderful. Steve Kerr is just a phenomenal guy. And to have that history and have his family ties to that in our community is really special. And the connection that KZV and Grace and their community was able to make with him, I think is really, really special. And it was great.
It was amazing. And it's actually, when I saw the connection, when I just started reading up on, funny, throughout the 90s when I was like into the whole Knicks and Bulls thing, I didn't read up on it. But then again, thank you to Wikipedia, how important that is. And when I found out, I was like, oh my God, he himself, wasn't he all born in Lebanon?
Yes, so his father was assassinated.
In Beirut.
I believe at the American University of Beirut. He was the chair of the school, I believe.
He was the dean of the school.
The dean of the school, yes. He was killed during their revolution, right?
So, and it's kind of like an AUA, but in Beirut.
Exactly.
You get me?
AUA is our American University Armenia. Not everyone knows AUA. That's right. It's okay. That was huge. That was on February 9th, earlier this month, and it was absolutely amazing. And it's really, really cool to have that connection with him and his family and the Armenian community here. In San Francisco, he danced Armenian dance. Yes. There's photos of it. There's articles with The Athletic, as well as NBC Sports. So it was really, really great to have that.
Thank you, Steve Kerr. Thank you, Golden State Warriors. I like when you can make that connection.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
And thank you, KZV, for doing this.
Yes, it was really wonderful. I don't know if we want to end on that note. We have a few other items maybe we could table.
Yes,
for next time.
Yeah, for next time. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're ending on a high note.
Something that could complement that high note is Serena Williams, right?
Sure. Sticking in sports.
She has been quoted saying that she is currently learning Armenian and considers herself an honorary Armenian.
Yes, I feel like amazing. I'm an honorary Armenian. Serena Williams, and she started learning Armenian. It's really, really cool. And it's very, very cool, I think, to have her as an honorary Armenian in our community. So, and her husband's here.
Amazing.
If you don't know who Serena Williams is,
you've been under a rock for a while.
Champion tennis player, female, amazing athlete.
Probably gonna go down in history as one of the best tennis players by far ever.
So it's very cool to have her as an honorary Armenian. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys soon.
And if the live session is a little too long, enjoy it in the morning on your commute to work, and reach out to us. Let us know what works for you. What do you like? What do you don't like?
If there's podcast platforms that you prefer or would like to see this on or hear this on, let us know. We have one that we're looking at, and I think it'll be good, but we'll see.
Alrighty.
Thank you guys.
Cheers.
Have a great evening.
Peace out. Mwah.